They say national parks are the last untouched parts of the earth. But what if that's because something else already claimed them? There's a strange comfort in nature. We find peace in its vastness, in the quiet that hangs between tree trunks, the distant sound of running water, the sharp cry of an eagle overhead. It feels like stepping back in time, before cities, before lights, before we ever made our mark on the land. But there's a reason these places remain untouched. It's not just preservation. It's not just conservation. Some places are left alone because they ask to be left alone. In the past decade, more people than ever have taken to the woods. Weekend warriors, van lifers, backpackers, families. They set up their tents, light their fires, and tell ghost stories as the darkness creeps in. But for a few, just a few, those ghost stories never end. Because something watches from beyond the tree line, and sometimes it steps forward. Take a moment. Think about what it really means to be alone in a forest. No cell service, no streetlights, no walls, no windows, no locked doors. Just you and whatever else calls those woods home. And sometimes, what calls it home doesn't need light to see. It doesn't need a sound to find you. And it doesn't need a reason to take interest. Rangers are trained to deal with bears, lost hikers, dehydration, storms. They're not trained to explain footprints that start in the middle of a field and lead nowhere. They're not trained to explain why tents collapse inward when there's no wind, or why experienced hikers drop their gear mid-trail and run full speed into the forest. Never to be found. Ask them off the record, when there's no clipboard, no supervisor, no press around, and some will talk. They'll talk about the shapes they've seen just past the light of their flashlights, about sounds that seem to mimic human voices, but never quite get the pitch right, about things that stand too still for too long and vanish the second you break eye contact. Some will laugh it off, others won't say a word, and a rare few will ask you to turn the recorder off. They don't report it because there's nothing to write down, no signs of struggle, no DNA, no logical chain of events, only a feeling, raw, instinctual, that something was out there, and they were never supposed to see it. And then there are the disappearances. Hundreds of cases scattered across decades, patterns that don't form a pattern, at least not one that makes sense on paper. Vanished hikers found miles from where they were last seen, uphill, barefoot, with no injuries, just silence. Children who go missing, only to be found sitting cross-legged at the edge of cliffs, staring into the treetops, unable to speak. People who walk off trails for just a moment, then reappear hours later, changed. They can't explain where they went. Some insist only minutes passed. Others remember nothing at all. But all of them carry the same expression in their eyes. Like they brushed up against something they were never supposed to find, like they stood at the edge of a world that doesn't want to be known, and heard it breathe. You won't find these stories in official park reports. But if you talk to the old hikers, the ones with weathered boots and eyes that don't blink enough, they'll tell you to never leave the trail after dusk, to never whistle in the woods, and above all else, never respond when you hear your name. Because sometimes it's not your name they're calling. It's just the sound they use to get you closer. In this volume, we'll hear from those who made it back, from people who still don't know what they saw, who can't explain the way the air changed, or why the forest went completely silent, all at once. From campers who heard footsteps outside their tent, but saw no shadows. From rangers who walked a patrol route they'd taken 100 times, only to find themselves in a part of the park that shouldn't exist. This isn't folklore. This isn't a campfire tale. These are first-hand accounts, moments of contact, fleeting, disjointed, and terrifyingly real. And whether you believe them or not, the forest doesn't care. It's still out there, waiting. There are over 400 designated national parks and recreation areas in the United States. They're vast, beautiful, and meant to be sanctuaries, places where humans reconnect with the wild. But a few of them have reputations that go beyond stunning vistas or scenic trails. There are stories, unresolved disappearances, cases that quietly faded into the background of public memory, filed away, buried beneath bureaucracy. Yet locals still talk, and some names come up more than others. Deep in the Appalachian Range lies the Great Smoky Mountains, a stretch of ancient ridges and valleys older than recorded history. Locals say the fog here never lifts. It clings to the trees like it remembers something, and refuses to let go. It shifts and curls unnaturally, swallowing hikers in the middle of the day, and sometimes the fog returns alone. One of the earliest disappearances dates back to 1969. Dennis Martin, a 6-year-old boy who vanished during a family outing. They said he was playing hide-and-seek. He ducked behind a bush, and then nothing. No footprints, no torn clothes, nothing. Thousands searched for weeks. The FBI got involved. But all they ever found was silence. Some of the searchers came back shaken. One even left the force entirely. When asked why, he simply said, "Something was off up there. It wasn't just the boy we were following." Then there's Yellowstone, the crown jewel of the park system. 2 million acres of untamed land, geysers, boiling mud pits, vast forests, and volcanic veins that run beneath the surface like arteries. It's also home to what some rangers quietly call the uncharted zones, thermal pockets so remote and volatile that they don't appear on any official maps. These areas are deadly if you step wrong, but that's not the only concern. There have been reports, never publicized, of phantom trails, paths that appear where none were before. Rangers swear they've followed familiar routes only to end up in places that shouldn't exist. Cliff edges where none were marked, dead forest clearings where the trees grow in unnatural, spiraling patterns. And then there are the voices. One backcountry camper claimed he heard his brother calling his name from the woods. He hadn't seen his brother in years. He followed the voice for nearly an hour, deeper and deeper into the forest. When he finally stopped, something was waiting. He wouldn't say what. He doesn't go near Yellowstone anymore. And then there's Olympic, dense, wet, isolated. A rainforest on the edge of the Pacific, where moss covers everything like skin. Locals say the trees whisper at night, that the forest floor never dries, no matter how long the sun shines, and that the deeper you go, the more the forest changes. Olympic has one of the highest concentrations of missing persons cases in the Pacific Northwest. Many of them share strange common threads. Hikers found miles off course with no memory of leaving the trail. Shoes placed neatly beside rivers with no sign of a struggle. Recordings corrupted beyond repair. One park volunteer once kept an audio diary. He said it helped pass the time during solo patrols. The last entry was dated September 14th, 2013. Something's off today. No birds, no bugs. It's like the forest is holding its breath. About an hour ago, I saw a shape standing between 2 trees. It didn't move. It didn't flinch. I thought it was a trick of the light, until I realized I was looking at it through my binoculars. It was tall, too tall, and its head tilted like it was listening. That was the last file recovered from his device. He never returned to base. When they found his tent 2 weeks later, it was perfectly intact, zippered from the inside. His boots were beside his sleeping bag. Nothing was missing, except him. Would you hike 10 miles into the woods? If the last guy never came back, Would you follow the same trail? Pitch your tent where they pitched theirs? Boil water where they washed their hands? Would you sleep under the same stars, knowing the sky above you once watched someone vanish without a sound, without a trace? Because that's exactly what one man did. He wasn't a thrill seeker. He wasn't a YouTuber or a wannabe survivalist. He didn't post about it on social media. He just wanted time away, quiet, solitude. What he got was something else entirely. His name was Tom Ellerby. Age 38, ex-military, lived out of his truck for the better part of a year after leaving his job. But he wasn't unstable. He wasn't lost. He was looking for a different kind of peace. And he thought he could find it in Olympic. He left behind a weatherproof notebook, found wedged inside a plastic ammo box beneath a fire ring. Inside were 11 entries. The final one was smeared, partially water-damaged, but still legible. We'll get to that. But for now, we'll start with his first note, dated July 1st, 2018. Day 1. Made it into the woods. No cell signal, not that I want it. Set up camp by the ridgeline. Mist hanging low, thick. Feels like it's watching me. Don't care, I've earned the silence. I'm going to sit in it. Tom thought he'd find silence. He did. But silence isn't always empty. Sometimes, it's listening. Tom Ellerby entered Olympic National Park on July 1st, 2018. He checked in at a ranger station. No known issues, no red flags. He signed a backcountry permit and carried enough food, gear, and fuel to last 10 days. But he didn't make it to day 5. What happened between that trailhead and the last journal entry has never been fully explained. But if his notebook is real and park records confirm it was found on July 11th, placed carefully beneath a ring of stones, then the pages inside may be the closest thing we have to understanding what he walked into. Day 2. Something odd. Found another campsite off-trail about a mile from mine. Tent zipped, no tears, sleeping bag made, fire ring still warm, backpack leaned against a log like someone just stepped away. But no one there, no footprints, no sign of struggle, called out a few times, no answer, waited for a while, left a note in case they come back. NPS Incident Report, number C8491, confirms a campsite fitting. That exact description was later located by rangers nearly 4 weeks after Tom disappeared. No registered permits matched it. No persons were ever reported missing in that area. And the note Tom left was never found. But it's what Tom wrote next that caused investigators to raise eyebrows. Day 3. Heard whistling last night. 3 notes, low, repeating. Thought it was wind at first, but it came from below the ridge. Too deliberate. Didn't sleep much. Olympic is known for its wind patterns. They swirl, they echo, but they don't whistle in patterns. Locals near the edge of the park, especially those whose families have lived there for generations, have their own name for this. They call it the mimic song, a sound that comes just after nightfall. Whistling, software measured, always 3 notes, and always followed by silence. They say never whistle back, never acknowledge it, never respond, because if you do, it learns your sound. Tom didn't whistle back, but the next night it whistled closer. Day 4. Trail looks wrong. Something about the trees. Too close, together. Birdsong cut off mid-call. Found an animal trail. Deer, maybe. It went straight, clean, then just stopped. No tracks, no droppings, like it vanished. Rangers will tell you, trails don't just end. Nature has patterns. Even chaos leaves evidence. But Olympic is different. There are places where GPS devices flicker and fail, where compasses spin, where even the animals behave like they know something's off. Tom began making voice notes into his backup recorder. The audio was found in fragments, corrupted by moisture, but 3 clips survived. One of them was just 6 seconds long. Saw a shape between the trees, tall, real thin, Not moving, it's watching, but not with eyes. The log cuts there. No timestamp, no context, just breathing and the sound of distant branches shifting, without wind. By the evening of day 4, Tom had moved deeper into the forest. He wanted distance from the whistling, from the strange clearing, from the feeling that had started to follow him like a shadow. He pushed toward the northern ridge, a place most visitors don't go. No campsites, no trail markers, just moss-covered slopes and old-growth trees that rise hundreds of feet into the sky. It was there that he found the stone totem. Narrator reads from journal. Day 4 continued. Found something today. In the middle of the path, a stack of stones, maybe 4 feet tall, looked placed. Intentional. At the base. Blood. Not old, not dry. Smelled coppery, like it was fresh, but no footprints, no drag marks, no animals nearby. Just quiet. Too quiet. Stone markers are nothing new in backcountry terrain. Cairns, boundary stacks, memorials. But this one didn't match any cultural patterns. Rangers couldn't explain the blood. No carcasses were ever found in the area. It stood alone in the middle of the trail, where no trail should have been. That night, Tom wrote his final full entry. Something was outside my tent last night. Didn't step, didn't move, just pressed in, heard breathing, heavy, too slow. I didn't unzip, didn't move. It left before dawn. I packed early and walked fast. I think I've been walking in circles. Trees look the same, sun's wrong, recorders acting up, battery shouldn't be dead. Leaving the journal here. If someone finds this, don't follow the whistling. That was the last page. Investigators never located Tom Ellerby. No body, no backpack, no gear, just the journal. And that same stone totem, found 2 days later in a different section of the forest, 10 miles from where it was first described. There was fresh blood at its base. We've scoured the records, spoken with rangers who worked that season. Some won't talk. Others won't stop talking until you ask them about the whistling. Then they change the subject or go silent. But in every town bordering Olympic, if you stop in a diner or gas station, someone will say it, "Don't whistle at night." It answers. In the wilderness, isolation is expected, but there's a difference between being alone and being watched. That line, the thin, fragile threshold between peace and threat. Tom Ellerby crossed it sometime on the 5th day. His final recordings, found later embedded deep within the waterproof recorder's memory, only partially corrupted, paint the picture of a man who was not just lost, but being followed. The second-to-last voice memo is 10 minutes long. Much of it is whispering. Tom talks to himself. He repeats the same phrase 4 times. It's pacing me. He says he's not sure what it is. He hasn't seen it, but he knows it's there. Then his voice drops to a whisper again. He says, "It doesn't step." The ground doesn't react, but the trees do. They lean, just barely, but they do. Like it moves with weight, but no sound. The air isn't just still, it feels like it's listening. Park rangers later confirmed that multiple trees in the vicinity where the recorder was found showed signs of unnatural curvature, bent but not broken. No animal, weather, or snow load explained the angle. They weren't leaning towards something. They were all bent away, as if something had moved through, pushing the forest outward from its center. Sometime during the 6th day, Tom reached a river. The recording captures the rush of water, faint at first, then louder as he approaches. And then, it captures something else. He breathes hard, says his legs are shaking, says he sees something across the river. There's a figure across the water. It's not moving. No, it is moving. It's doing what I'm doing. When I lean, it leans. When I kneel, it kneels. It's not wearing what I'm wearing. It's me, but it's not. He says the figure isn't distorted. It's not a shadow, not a reflection. It's as if he's looking into a warped mirror, but with a delay. Like the forest had decided to give him a companion, but didn't know how to build one properly. He moves. The figure follows. Not perfectly. Off by just enough to make it worse. Like it was watching a beat too long, then rushing to catch up. And then it smiles. He never describes the smile. He just says, "It smiled at me like it had just learned how." The sound of water grows louder, then abruptly cuts off. No splash, no wind, just static. When the next voice clip begins, Tom is whispering again. He says the taste in the air changed. "I tasted metal before I smelled the rot." The recorder picks up soft, gurgling sounds, then the unmistakable sound of flies, but no signs of a kill site were ever found. Tom says something else, nearly lost in the static. There's no decay, just the smell, like something wants to remember how rot works. He mentions seeing movement in the trees again, but this time, he doesn't try to describe what moved, only that it bent the trees in its wake, but left no sound, no wind, no footfall, only the unbearable feeling of pressure, like the woods themselves were bracing. That night, he didn't pitch a tent. He kept walking, over 12 miles, through brush, over uneven rock, along the edge of sharp ravines. And he wasn't running. His GPS tracker, recovered from his dropped pack days later, showed consistent, steady movement, measured steps, like someone trying to look calm while being hunted. Just past midnight, he stopped. There's one final voice memo. It lasts 22 seconds. "If you find this, don't go back the way I came. It doesn't need your name. It already has mine." His voice cuts off. Then, faintly, barely audible beneath the hiss of dying battery, 3 notes. Low. Whistled. And then, silence. Search crews never found Tom Ellerby. But 2 days after the last voice memo was time-stamped, another hiker, unrelated to the case, was rescued from a nearby area after getting lost. When asked if he heard anything unusual during the 3 nights, he was alone. He only said this: "I thought someone was with me. I'd hear breathing outside my shelter, and on the second night, I swear I saw my own face watching me from the trees." There's a point in every missing persons case where investigators shift their approach. Early on, you search for footprints, broken branches. You assume someone is trying to be found. But after enough time passes, you start to wonder, what if they're not just lost? What if something took them off the path entirely? Tom Ellerby's case reached that moment on day 7. We don't know how far he hiked that day. We only know that by 2:13 p.m., the GPS unit in his pack began recording a repeating pattern. Same coordinates, same elevation. Every reading, identical. Time moved forward, but the device insisted he hadn't moved an inch, even after he walked for hours. Weather logs from the park show a severe storm rolled in that afternoon. Barometric pressure dropped rapidly. Winds rose to 40 miles per hour. Visibility dropped to near zero. And that's when Tom made his second-to-last mistake. He took shelter in a cave. There are hundreds of small caves throughout Olympic, many undocumented, some natural, some left behind by early settlers, loggers, or miners, buried over time and forgotten. But this one had walls that weren't smooth like rock. They were scored, marked, etched with lines deep and frantic, clawing, overlapping, purposeful in their panic. Tom entered the cave just before 3 p.m. His flashlight flickered but held, and he began noticing something strange almost immediately. The walls are scratched, deep, angled downward, like whatever made them was trying to climb out, not in. saw a few marks that looked familiar, thought I was imagining things. He wasn't. He takes out his multi-tool, scratches a small T into the stone beside the entrance, records the sound, then scans the cave wall again. His breathing goes uneven. Found the same T deeper inside, identical. Same pressure, same depth. It was already here. Tom moves deeper into the cave. Every step takes him closer to something that clearly expected him. Scratches begin to multiply. They're not random anymore. They follow the curve of the wall. They form shapes. Simple ones, like stick figures, like something trying to depict a story. One figure is smaller, holding a stick. Another is larger, no eyes, no mouth, but arms, long and reaching, and underneath, more recent gouges. Tom shines his light, runs a hand along the lower edge of the wall. His voice drops to a whisper. These weren't here when I got in. They match the base of my trekking pole. Then the static grows, battery dips. His last words from inside the cave, recorded unintentionally, are barely audible. Whatever it was, it knew I was coming. The storm continued for 6 hours. When skies cleared, search and rescue teams were deployed. They located the general area Tom's GPS had last signaled from, found his empty pack, and, several meters away, the cave. There were no fresh footprints outside, just one thing etched into the stone, visible only when the sun hit it at a slant, the T mark, etched twice. One faint, and one freshly gouged. By day 9, Tom Ellerby had been missing for over 200 hours. The search radius had expanded to nearly 20 square miles. Helicopters scanned the canopy. Ground teams spread out in grids. Dogs were brought in, then removed, after 2 refused to leave a stretch of trail less than 50 feet long. And yet, the recordings continued. Found later on a backup recorder embedded in a false pocket of his jacket, protected from the elements. The final batch of logs paint a picture of something no one was prepared for. Something that had followed Tom into shelter. We don't know exactly when he found the cabin. Most believe it was one of the decommissioned ranger huts built in the 60s. No power, no signal, no modern locks, just a stove, a cot, and silence. But Tom wasn't alone. He enters the cabin just before nightfall. The storm outside is muffled, more distant this time. He sets his flashlight on the table, clicks the recorder on, and breathes. Long, shallow breaths, like someone who just outran something they never saw. Then he speaks. The light doesn't last here. I don't mean the battery, I mean light itself. It works, but it doesn't stick. The shadows pull it back in. He says he can see his breath. The air is colder than outside. He walked into the cabin at dusk, but now, inside, it looks like night has already settled. The windows are black. No reflection. Just black. Then, the sound. Software. Measured. Footsteps. Tom freezes, breath hitching. The microphone picks up his steps, each one slow, deliberate, and then another set of footsteps, right behind his, slightly off. They echo inside the cabin, exactly in sync. Except, they're not his. He walks across the floor. The steps match. Stops. So do they. But when he tries to fake a step, moves, and then halts midway, the second set of steps doesn't hesitate. They follow through. He says nothing for 20 seconds, just breathing. Then, quietly, it's not copying me anymore. It's choosing when to be me. Then the flashlight flickers again, once, twice, and in the brief burst of light, the mic picks up a change in air pressure, tiny shifts, the kind that make your ears pop, and Tom gasps. He backs into the corner. The recorder falls to the floor but keeps running. We hear a slow creak of floorboards. Then something heavier, something wet, a dragging sound. But not on the floor. It's on the ceiling. Tom whispers again. It's not out there anymore. It's with me. The recording ends with the sound of the flashlight clattering to the floor. Then, static. No more words, just the slow, rhythmic creak of something pacing overhead. When the search team found the cabin 2 weeks later, it was empty. No blood, no damage. Just one thing left behind, a single, muddy footprint on the ceiling. They never found a body, no bones, no clothing, not a scrap. But something else was left behind, something hidden inside the old ranger cabin. It wasn't found during the initial sweep. Tucked behind the stove, inside a rusted tin box, was a strip of tape, audio, old-school magnetic, labeled in faint, shaky handwriting, "Do not play at night." Investigators digitized the tape. It took weeks to restore. It had degraded, warped by moisture and time, but once they did. They heard Tom. His voice came in soft at first, strangely calm. No sign of panic, no urgency. Just this: I've seen it, and I think it wants me to see it, to understand it. He describes waking up sometime after midnight, no memory of falling asleep, no firewood left, no flashlight, just breath. But not his. He follows the sound out of the cabin. The night is moonless, the sky cloudless, but the forest is glowing, not light, not exactly, just exposure, like the shadows no longer belong to anything. And that's when he hears it. From deeper in the trees, a voice, shaky, desperate. "Help, please, I'm hurt, I can't move. Please, help." But Tom doesn't move. He whispers, "It's not real." That voice. It's his, I think. The guy who disappeared last spring. It sounds like him, but it's not him. He moves closer anyway. The recorder stays on. We hear the crunch of underbrush, branches brushing fabric, and then nothing. Silence, until it speaks again. "Help, I'm hurt. Please, please." His own voice echoed back at him, slightly off, like a recording played at the wrong speed. He starts to run, branches snap around him, but not from behind, from ahead, as if something already knew the path he'd take. He stumbles, lands hard, and then he sees it. His breathing becomes shallow. The tape warps slightly, but the words still come through. It's standing across from me, not a bear, not a man, something between. He describes long limbs, too many joints, arms that bend twice, legs that stay still while the upper body shifts, like it's rearranging itself to match whatever you fear most. It's skin, not skin at all. More like layers of bark and sinew, some of it pulsing, some of it whispering, not audibly, visibly, like the texture of its body was speaking, flickering like a language we were never meant to read. And then Tom says, something no one can quite explain, a phrase repeated 3 times. They're not lost. They're not lost. They're part of it. And just before the tape cuts, there's a final sound, a low, mechanical moan, like wind through metal, and several overlapping voices, men, women, even a child, all speaking the same word at once. Stay. The sound slows, the tape reels drag, and then silence. The cabin was sealed after that, declared unsafe, access restricted. But hikers still pass through the general area, and some claim that, if you camp nearby and listen closely, you can still hear it. Not the creature, not the moan, just your own voice, calling for help, from somewhere else in the trees. On the 14th day, they found the camp again. Same spot, same gear, same circle of stones for the fire pit, with the ashes still warm, as if no time had passed at all, even though the search log showed he'd been missing for 2 weeks, even though his last recorded location was miles from this place, even though they'd found the final tape in a place he should never have reached. Tom Ellerby was back, but something wasn't right. He was sitting by the fire, cross-legged, staring into the smoke, hands folded in his lap like he'd just finished a prayer. When the Rangers approached, he didn't flinch, didn't blink, just turned his head slightly like he already knew they were coming. He was responsive, clear-headed, no injuries, no frostbite, no dehydration, no sign he'd even been in the forest for more than a day. But his voice wasn't the same. It had a strange quality to it. Not wrong exactly, just too even, too calm. Like a documentary narrator reading off a script he didn't write. He answered their questions with precision. Tom's voice, flat and slow. I went for water. I slipped. Woke up near the creek. Thought I'd head back when the weather cleared. But he hadn't gone for water. He'd never left the area where they'd found the tape. There were no tracks, no signs of a fall, no broken branches, no slide marks in the mud. And most chilling of all, he didn't mention the thing. Not once. Not the voices, not the cabin, not the creature that moved like a reflection peeling off the mirror. It was like none of it had ever happened. Except it had. Because later, in the ranger outpost, under harsh, fluorescent light and monitored by medical staff, Tom was handed a metal mirror. Routine, they said. Check for pupil dilation, facial trauma, shock symptoms. But when he looked into that reflection, he hesitated. And then he said something the nurses never forgot. "That's not my face." He looked again, slowly reached up and touched his cheek, like it was unfamiliar, foreign, a surface with no memory beneath it. And then came the whisper. "I remember everything, from both sides." And just like that, Tom began to weep, not in bursts, not with sobs, but in a slow, continuous stream, like a dam had cracked in a place where no one had known water even lived. The rest of the report is redacted, scrubbed, buried under procedural nonsense, psych eval, temporary hold, family release, no further questions. But there's something no one could explain away. The voice logs. Standard practice dictates that all returned hikers undergo a short psychological intake, including voice recordings to compare against their pre-hike registration clips. Baseline analysis. But Tom's return tape, the one captured in the ranger station, came back flagged. Because the harmonics didn't match. The software said it was him. But the shape of the voice, the depth, was wrong. Too many undertones, too many inconsistencies between syllables. As if the voice was made of more than one person. Or more disturbingly, more than one memory. Weeks later, Tom's family reported small changes. Nothing major at first. He woke up before the sun, kept the windows covered, didn't like his reflection in glass, spoke less, and when he did speak, sometimes the words were just slightly off, like someone describing a thing they'd never seen but had studied intensely. One night, during a power outage, his wife found him in the backyard, kneeling in the grass, hands pressed into the dirt, whispering something over and over. She leaned in and caught only fragments. We see better when we borrow skin. We remember clearer when we forget which side we're on. She asked who he was talking to. He looked up and smiled. But it wasn't a comforting smile. It was the kind you give when a long game is finally over and someone else won. They say trauma has a way of rewriting memory, that when the mind witnesses something it can't process, it doesn't scream, it tucks it away, layers it under ordinary details, dull routines, lukewarm coffee, neighbors waving from across the street. And for a while, that worked. Or at least, it seemed to. After the forest, after the tapes, after the return that no one could explain, Tom Ellerby came home, to a house that hadn't changed, to a wife that still kept his slippers by the door, to kids who remembered how he liked his eggs, to a dog that barked at him once, then never again. They staged a welcome back, photos, laughter. He smiled in all of them. Every one, but none of the photos matched each other. In some, he looked lighter, younger even. A strange glow to his eyes like he'd slept for years. In others, there was a stiffness, a distance, like he was posing as someone he hadn't been in a long, long time. 3 months passed. No incidents, no flashbacks, no outbursts, no late-night walks into the woods. He returned to work part-time at the outfitter's store, smiled at customers, recommended tents and trail socks, even joined a local hiking group. They called him the guy who made it back. But one night, while his wife was organizing the digital photo albums, something caught her eye. It was subtle, barely a flicker, a shadow where none should be. She was scrolling through images from the welcome back barbecue. Kids splashing in the pool, burgers on the grill, sparklers lighting up dusk. Then she landed on a group photo, the whole family standing together. Tom was in the middle, hand on his son's shoulder. But something about the face, the eyes, they didn't feel right. She zoomed in. There were 2 of him. One Tom, clear and sharp, standing like normal, and behind him, barely visible, another. A second figure in the background. Same height, same posture, same face, just slightly out of focus, like it didn't want to be seen, but couldn't help showing up. At first, she assumed it was a glitch, a double exposure. But this wasn't a film camera. It was digital. She checked the metadata. 1 image, 1 timestamp, 1 subject, but 2 Toms. She opened another folder, clicked through Christmas, New Year's Eve, their daughter's birthday. And in one photo, he's smiling at the cake. But, in the mirror behind him, he's not. In fact, the reflection isn't smiling at all. It's watching. Still, unblinking. And then, it blinks, only in the reflection. She dropped the tablet. The screen cracked, and the reflection blinked again. She confronted him later that night, voice shaking, hands clenched. She said she needed to ask something strange, something she hoped, prayed, had an answer rooted in logic, in trauma, in stress. But all she got was silence, and then a look, that same smile, polite, even, but not the one she married. He touched her hand gently and said, "Sometimes, the part of us that goes missing out there doesn't come back right away." She asked what he meant. He only shrugged and walked upstairs, and for a moment, just before the door closed, she could have sworn there was another footstep behind his. The next morning, he was gone. No note, no signs of struggle, no packed bag. His truck still in the driveway. Only the photo, left sitting on the kitchen table, still cracked, still blinking. Before we end this story, there's something else, something I didn't want to include, but I think you need to hear it. It came to me in pieces, emails, old ranger reports, footage from a drone recovery, and one last video, uploaded by someone who doesn't exist anymore. The uploader had no profile picture, no bio, no connected accounts, but the name on the channel matched the ranger who filed the first incident report on Tom Ellerby. Ranger Julian North, filed missing 6 weeks ago. The final video was titled simply, "Entry 0, if you're seeing this, I didn't make it back." It's unlisted now, scrubbed from search, audio warped, metadata wiped, but I downloaded it before it vanished. It begins in the dark. Night vision kicks in. The green hue flickers. Heavy breathing fills the mic. We see boots, mud-caked, dragging. The camera tilts and reveals a forest clearing. Too still. Almost like the trees were waiting. Then the ranger speaks. I've been following it for days. Not tracking, following. It leaves things behind, like it wants me to see them. He pans the camera toward the ground. A ranger badge, snapped clean in half. The nameplate reads, L.A. Julian's hand is shaking now. It changes the trail. Every time I try to leave, I end up right back where I started. The landmarks move. Even the sun doesn't rise the same way twice. He flips the lens toward himself. Eyes hollow, skin pale, dried blood under one nostril. But what's most terrifying is what's behind him. In the far background, just before the feed cuts to static, you can make out a shape, a tall, lean figure, not moving, not breathing, just standing, wearing a hat, a uniform, and a badge. The video ends abruptly. No outro, no timestamp, just black. Hours later, authorities found Julian's vehicle parked on the edge of Olympic National Park. Engine cold, doors locked, gear still inside. No Julian. Only a cracked phone in the front seat with the note app still open. One sentence typed, over and over. It remembers who we are better than we do. 2 weeks after that, a hiker reported a strange object caught in the crook of a tree, nearly 60 feet off the ground. A drone, its propellers bent, camera lens half melted. Data was salvageable. The footage shows aerial shots of the forest, calm, green, vast. Until, at the edge of a clearing, something moves. The drone dips lower, tracks heat, focuses, and there, center frame, it looks up. Not startles, not flees. It looks up, dead into the camera. And it's wearing a ranger's badge. But its mouth is wrong. Too wide. Its head, tilted just a little too far, and its eyes. They're not human, but they remember you. No one claimed the drone. No one retrieved the footage. No official records of the incident exist. But the file lives on, passed from inbox to inbox, forum to forum, shared in late-night threads by people who shouldn't know each other, but somehow do. They say it's a hoax, that it was part of a horror ARG, that it's just viral storytelling gone too far. But no one can explain the ranger log timestamps, or the GPS coordinates that don't appear on any official map, or the fact that, in every version of the video, that thing, the one with the badge, blinks at the exact same moment. Some think the parks are hiding something. Others think we're just seeing things because we want to be afraid. But maybe it's both. Maybe the fear isn't ours. Maybe we're just borrowing it. So, was it real? Or just a warning? You decide. By the time you hear this, I might be gone. Or maybe I never existed in the first place. Maybe all of this was always going to be like this. Half memories, whispers that never quite reach your ears, and stories that linger like damp fog, fading the moment you think you've grasped them. What I'm about to tell you is something I didn't expect to be involved in, but in the end, I didn't have a choice. It started as an investigation, no different from the countless others, documenting stories, trying to make sense of the patterns. But somewhere along the way, I got too close. My last video, uploaded just days before everything went dark, was supposed to be my final piece. One last entry into the mysteries that had already begun to consume me. It was never meant to be this. There's no other way to explain it. I disappeared. For hours, no one could track me down, and when I finally reappeared, my uploads stopped. My messages, unread. Phone calls, unanswered. It's as if I was erased. And then, when I tried to return to normal life, whatever that meant, I found something that didn't belong to me. It wasn't just missing time. It was the void. And no one seems to have any answers. That final video. It wasn't meant to be shared, but it was uploaded anyway. Uploaded by someone or something that was no longer me. The video starts innocuously enough. Just me, sitting at my desk in the dark. My office lamp barely illuminating the space, casting long, stretching shadows. I'm looking down, typing something on the screen, and the title of the video appears. Entry 0. If you're seeing this, I didn't make it back. It's almost like I'm reading a script I've already written, like the words are someone else's, like I know I'm supposed to be here, but I'm already stepping outside the lines of this world. As the camera shakes slightly, I can hear myself speak, disturbingly calm, as if all of it has already happened. Maybe it has. I've been out there too long. The woods are changing things I can't explain, and I'm not sure I ever will. But I'm sending this just in case you have to know the truth. Then there's a jarring cut. The video skips forward, slightly distorted, and suddenly we're outside. Through the lens, the trees are dark, oppressive. The underbrush is thick, with shadows that don't seem to belong. The air hums with a kind of static. Everything is wrong, just off. The camera turns, unsteady, and we see a figure standing in the distance. It's hard to focus at first, but eventually it comes into view. A person, or something that looks like one. It's standing still, watching, not just standing, staring. Its eyes, too wide, too dark. Its posture, unnatural, rigid, like it's frozen in place. But it isn't moving. It's not the body that gets to you, though. It's the badge, the park ranger badge. The very same one you see on every ranger. Shiny, polished. But this one has something strange about it. The engraving is blurry, indistinct. But I swear, I saw it. The name etched there, not my name. But it didn't matter, did it? It was staring into the lens, staring into me. In the background, another shadow stirs. But it's not just a shadow. It's an outline of someone else. Someone standing behind the figure with the badge, watching, always watching. The camera cuts again. But this time, it's just static. Nothing more. No explanation. No sound. And the feed cuts out completely. For the record. I didn't upload that video. I didn't even know it was there until the park rangers contacted me. They found a drone buried deep within the park, abandoned, but with clear signs it had been active. They recovered the footage, and they showed it to me. I don't know who uploaded it, but I know it wasn't me. And I know something's wrong. Something's been wrong for a long time. Because whatever that creature was in the video, it was wearing a park ranger's badge. Some think it was a prank. Some say it's a hoax. But what if it wasn't? What if the parks have been hiding something darker, something we're not meant to see? Somewhere in the depths of these wildernesses, something waits, something that learns how to mimic us, something that becomes us. And I'm telling you this now, if you ever go there, don't get too close. Don't follow the trail. Don't answer when it calls your name, because it already knows you. So here's my final question, one last time. Was it real, or was it just a warning? Something you'll never know until it's too late. You decide. With that, the video ends. The silence settles over you like a thick fog, the kind of silence that demands more questions, more probing, more searching. And you know, even if you wanted to, there's no way back now. The mystery remains, unsolved, haunting. What happened to the narrator? Where did they go? What became of them after they uploaded that final video? You'll never know. Or will you? It's strange, isn't it? The way the world turns in on itself when you're not paying attention. The way something can be so close, so real, and yet just beyond your grasp. So fleeting like a dream, fading as soon as you reach for it. And when that thing, when it touches you, when it enters your life, you know deep down that there's no going back. And yet, you still reach for it. You want to know the truth. But some truths, they're more dangerous than the lies. By now, you've heard all the stories. You've heard about the disappearances, the legends, the shadows in the woods, the figures that watch from the edges of your vision, the whispers that come when you're alone. But I'm telling you this, there are stories that you don't hear. Stories that never make it out of the park. And this story, this one, the one I'm about to share with you, it wasn't supposed to be told. Not like this. I was never supposed to disappear. But disappear, I did. And when I came back, I was different. Not in the way you'd expect, not physically. Number, it's something else. Something you can't put into words, something that follows you, not in the way a shadow follows the sun. Number, this is different. This is something that has you. And it doesn't let go. Let me tell you what happened after I uploaded the final video, the one you just watched. When I sent it out, I thought I'd be done. I thought it was over. But it wasn't. Not for me. I remember being in the park that day, standing near the edge of a clearing, watching the trees bend under some invisible weight. The forest seemed alive, but not in a good way. More like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. I tried to get away. I tried to go back, to find some semblance of safety, but every path I took led me deeper into the woods. I could feel it, that thing, staring at me, waiting. The GPS had stopped working days ago. So had my phone. And every time I tried to leave, it was like the woods themselves were shifting. The ground wasn't familiar anymore. Landmarks were gone. The world was warping, bending, folding in on itself. And I was just a tiny piece in its horrible design. But you know what really scared me? It wasn't the woods. It wasn't the creatures I had seen. No. It was me. Because I didn't feel alone anymore. That feeling, the one you get when someone's watching you from behind? It wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was a presence. And it wasn't just in the woods. It followed me everywhere. In every reflection, in every shadow. It was in my mind. I tried to make sense of it all. I tried to remember the facts. I tried to tell myself it was just paranoia, just fatigue. But when I found the drone buried under the leaves, I realized I couldn't lie to myself anymore. It wasn't just a drone. It was the drone. The one I thought had been lost. The one I had been searching for, only to find that it had already been watching me, staring at me from the trees. And when I replayed the footage, I could feel it. The thing was in the video, not just the background, not just the periphery. Number. It was looking at me. It was watching me from the edge of the clearing, the creature in the video. I saw its eyes. It knew me better than I knew myself, and it was waiting. And then it did something else, something I couldn't have predicted. The footage cut out, leaving only static. And in that static, something appeared. For a split second, a flicker of movement. A dark, looming figure standing just behind the drone. And then it focused. The camera focused on the figure. It wasn't human. It had the shape of a person, sure, but its features, they weren't right. The face, if you could even call it a face, was twisted, stretched, elongated. The eyes were too wide, too dark. And the mouth? A gaping wound, an unholy thing opening and closing as though it were trying to speak. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the badge. It was wearing a park ranger's badge, the same kind I had seen on the rangers who passed through the trails, who patrolled the woods, who spoke to me like they were keeping everything safe. But the one in the video, it wasn't a ranger. It had the badge. Yes, but it wasn't human anymore. And that thing that was supposed to protect the park, had become something else. The video was uploaded after that. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it appeared. and no one knows who uploaded it. Was it me? Was it the creature? Or was it someone or something else entirely? It's strange how it all happens, isn't it? How you can go from being a person to just an echo of yourself, a shadow of your former self. It's like the moment you stop being human, it's all just a slow, endless descent into something other. Something that wears the mask of the world you once knew, but is wrong. When I came back, I didn't recognize myself. My reflection wasn't mine. The way my voice sounded, different, distant. And the worst part? I started seeing that thing, that creature, everywhere. In the mirrors, in the windows, in the crowd. And every time it looked at me, I felt that same thing, that feeling of being watched. That's when I realized something I don't want to admit. I had become it. I wasn't the person I was before, not anymore. I was the thing that followed the trail, the thing that watches from the shadows. Was it real or just a warning? You decide, but be careful, because once you know, you might never leave. You made it back, or did you? You thought you were done, didn't you? That the story was finished, that you could walk away from all of this, close your screen, and go on with your life like nothing had happened. But I'm here to tell you something. You didn't leave. You're still here. And now you know. Think about it. All those stories, all those warnings, you thought they were just stories, right? Something to make you shiver before the fire, something to keep you awake on a long road trip. But now you can't forget. You can't unsee what you've just witnessed. That creature. It's still out there, isn't it? In the trees, watching. It follows you now. It's in your mind, in the corners of your thoughts. When you close your eyes, you see it. And you know, deep down, it's always been there. It's always been waiting for you to look. So I ask you, again, what would you do? What would you do if you saw something watching from the trees? If you felt those eyes, cold and unblinking, fixed on you? If you heard that rustling in the brush behind you, too close for comfort? But when you turned around, there was nothing there? Would you run? Or would you stay and face it? But there's one thing you can't do. You can't pretend it's not there. You can't forget what you've seen. Not now. Because once you've seen it, once it's touched you, it's with you. It's always with you. So here's my question. To you, the one I can't answer for you. What's your theory? Is it real? Was it just the madness of the woods, the isolation? Or is there something out there? Something that we can't explain? Tell me in the comments. Tell me what you think happened. Because I know you're thinking about it, aren't you? Are you haunted by the same thing I am? By the things I saw in those woods? By that feeling that you're not quite alone anymore? You thought it was over, didn't you? But this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Volume 3 is coming soon. And believe me when I say, we're not alone this time. You'll see. And when you do, you won't be able to look away. Until then, I want to hear from you. Like, subscribe, and leave your theories in the comments below. Tell me, what do you think is really out there in those woods? Because I can't shake the feeling that something's still following us. Stay safe. Stay aware. And remember, the woods are never really empty. Not anymore. Volume 3 drops soon. But next time, we're not alone.